on. I'm like confused.
Okay.
So I put the coin down right behind it.
Yep.
And then what?
So if you put the coin down, the ball was here.
Yeah.
And then, it didn't look intentional. When you got it back, it was over here.
Notice this blue sticker represents the front edge of the golf ball. So here she comes to mark the ball. Coin goes down. She lifts the ball. And when she replaces it, you'll now notice that that sticker has moved from the front of the ball to the middle of the ball.
This put back. We watched it on TV. Really nice. That's a whole lot.
I didn't intentionally do that. I just put it right in front.
Oh, I know there was no intent. I know there was. The problem is, it's going to be 4 stroke. 2 for playing from the wrong place, and then 2 for an incorrect score on the 17th hole from yesterday.
Is this a joke?
No, it's not. Not at all.
The Lexi Thompson fiasco resulted in So-Yeon Ryu defeating Lexi Thompson in a playoff to win the ANA Inspiration. It also inspired outrage in the golf community at large, with titles like Lexi Thompson's ANA Inspiration penalty is another major blunder for golf. Even Tiger weighed in with, viewers at home should not be officials wearing stripes. Let's go, Lexi, win this thing anyway. On that Sunday afternoon, a viewer submitted feedback via lpga.com.
So what happened here, this unfortunately was called in by a viewer a day later.
And Lexi Thompson ended up losing the tournament.
Did not intentionally do that, so to the officials or whoever called in, that was not my purpose.
Here you can see a little over 3 weeks later, on April 25th, 2017, the USGA releases new rules of golf decision limits use of video review. So it's obviously in direct relation to what would happen to Lexi Thompson. This rule was determined to be effective immediately. New Decision 34-3/10 implements 2 standards for rules committees to limit the use of video. 1, when video reveals evidence that could not reasonably be seen with the naked eye. And 2, when players use their reasonable judgment to determine a specific location when applying the rules. The full language of the decision can be found here. Obviously, number 2 will be applying to the Lexi Thompson situation, as she was determining a specific location in which to replace her ball. It isn't the naked eye test, because you can see from the video that Lexi Thompson actually was off by an inch or so. And most likely a naked eye could see that inch, but that isn't the point here. The point here is when you're determining a specific location, you go to part number 2, which is the reasonable judgment standard. Likewise, it clearly states the second standard, the reasonable judgment standard, applies when a player determines a spot, point, position, line, area, distance, or other location in applying the rules, and recognizes that a player should not be held to the degree of precision that can sometimes be provided by video technologies. Examples include determining the nearest point of relief or replacing a lifted ball. And that's the case of Lexi Thompson. Here you can see the second standard, reasonable judgment, should be applied.
Another major rules announcement today from the USGA and the R&A. And I'm joined by Thomas Pagel, Senior Director of the Rules of Golf and Amateur Status. And Thomas, the new decision limits the use of video review.
The decision introduces 2 new standards, and it's effective immediately. Those standards are what we call a naked eye standard.
The naked eye standard is when the use of video technology can make it possible to identify things that could not reasonably be seen with the naked eye. Examples would include when a player unknowingly touches a few grains of sand in the backswing with a golf club in making a stroke from a bunker, or when a player is unaware that the club struck the ball more than once in the course of making a single stroke. However, when replacing a lifted ball in relation to a ball marker or replacing a ball on the spot from which it accidentally moved, you go to the second standard.
The second standard is what we call reasonable judgment standard. And as golfers, you're often required to make determinations or decisions on where you're going to play from next, whether you're replacing your ball, where you cross the margin of a water hazard. And in all those instances, you're using judgment. So what this standard is telling us is that if you did all that was reasonable in that given circumstance and you got it wrong, and you're just fractionally wrong, and the only reason we know you got it wrong is because we have television evidence, then you're also not going to be held to penalty.
In 2019, you can see these rules are put into the summary chart for the major changes in the rules of golf for 2019. The subcategory is integrity. The topic is players' reasonable judgment in estimating and measuring under a rule. And the description of the change states, new rule. When determining a spot, point, line, area, or other location under a rule, a player's reasonable judgment will not be second-guessed based on later evidence, such as video review, if the player did all that could be reasonably expected under the circumstances to make an accurate estimation or measurement, whereas the current rule was a player's judgment is given no particular weight or deference. The committee decides any issue about the accuracy of the estimation or measurement based on a review of all facts. It's very important to note the part where the player's reasonable judgment will not be second-guessed, and also note that from 2019 to 2023, nothing removes the fact that the player will not be second-guessed. All that the changes from 2019 to 2023 entail are more clarification of when a player should use reasonable judgment. Looking at the rules from 2023, which you can download on your phone, Rule 1.3b, applying the rules, says that it's the player responsibility for applying the rules. Rule 1.3b2 is titled Accepting Players' Reasonable Judgment in Determining a Location when Applying the Rules, and then it goes to note that many rules require a player to determine a spot, point, line, edge, area, or other location under the rules, such as replacing a ball on its original spot, whether the spot is known or estimated. Furthermore, such determinations about location need to be made promptly and with care, but often cannot be precise. So long as the player does what can be reasonably expected under the circumstances to make an accurate determination, the player's reasonable judgment will be accepted, even if, after the stroke is made, the determination is shown to be wrong by video evidence or other information. So you can see when this rule came about, it was put into effect immediately from the Lexi Thompson situation in 2017. In 2019, when they put it into the rule book, they want you to know that the player's reasonable judgment shall not be second-guessed. And all they do from there on out is they never remove that the player should not be second-guessed point. That was refinement. All they do is further refine this whole principle of reasonable judgment by extending it to other situations where players should use their reasonable judgment. And that leads us into the present day and the Shad Tuten situation. And let's see how many mistakes these rules officials at the Korn Ferry Tour made when they gave Shad Tuten his two-stroke penalty.
Yes, thank you, Shad. Yeah, we're here with Jim Duncan. Jim, could you just explain exactly what happened and why the penalty was assessed on Shad?
Well, there was a video of him trying to place his ball under the lift, clean, and place local rule.
Just walk us through the last hour and a half. Walk us through 15 when you make the birdie putt, through 18, and when you started to either hear murmurs or find out that you might get penalized.
Let me kind of set the stage. So before I hit, in the video that you can see, I was turned around, kind of looking. The guys behind me were standing on top of the hill trying to set up a camera for guys that were coming into the fairway, and a volunteer was coming over and talking to them. They were pretty loud, so I had to back off. So that took, try not to exaggerate, a little over a minute.
Okay.
And it is what it is, it happens. It's part of professional golf. So get down there, mark my golf ball like I normally do, all week. We played lifting in place pretty much the whole week, and marks my golf ball. It rolled forward.
And I think it's pretty clear in the video that when he placed it one time, that the ball rolled forward a little bit.
I always mark my golf ball with a T on it, right up under the tide lift, so I know exactly where the center of the golf ball is. So it's a good aim point for me.
Okay.
So Shad Tuton is very thorough with this process of marking his golf ball, and they've been playing lift, clean, and place the whole week.
And when I looked down, my golf ball had rolled to where I only saw the white on the golf ball. So it rolled pretty, half a roll forward.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's closer to my, my intended target line or whatever.
Unfortunately, that rule requires you to try to replace it on the exact same spot again. And then if it won't stay at rest, that's when you find the nearest place that you do, just like any other rule that requires, placing. So when he did not try to place that ball right back on the same spot.
So end up replacing it where I thought it was. And
he ended up replacing it where he thought it was. From his perspective, that's where he thought it was, and that's where he put the ball.
So kind of continuing on. So I made a great par on 16. 17 is a really tough tee shot. It was straight into the wind. And I hit a gem of a tee ball right down the middle. And there's a big bridge that you have to walk across, and there's a rules official waiting on us as, I'm walking from the bridge to the fairway to kind of get to my ball. And he said, the rules official says, Shad, this is everywhere right now. And you need to look at this and tell me exactly what happened. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So he shows me the video that everyone saw.
So here you can see that they're using the video as the basis for potentially penalizing Shad Tuten, and eventually they actually do penalize him. So then you've got tons of guys misexplaining 14.2E because they focus on Shad, whether or not he placed in the exact same spot or not. However, the overriding rule should have been the use of video rule, which says, was it in the exact same spot as per Shad's reasonable judgment? Here's another guy. All these experts going to the same wrong rule. Yes, he had to put in the exact same spot, but Shad Tuten knows the rules and thought he put in the same spot. Again, it's up to his judgment as to whether or not he had not put the ball in the right spot after he had taken steps to accurately mark it. I've even gone out of my way to red pill these guys and give them all the information, and they still can't put 2 and 2 together.
He was like, what did you do? I said, my ball rolled forward, and I picked it up and placed it right back where it was. He's like, okay. So, and my caddy looked at me, and he was like, is there anything wrong? I'm like, no chance. I did everything I was supposed to do. No big deal. It's lift clean in place. Everybody knows what to do. No problem. So I step onto the tee box, and so I put my hand on the driver, and the same rules official comes up again. And he's like, Shad, we need you to answer some questions about this. I was like, look, man, I appreciate your concern, but we can talk about this after.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Yep. Right.
There's not anything that's okay about, the second time a rules official comes up and talks to you. So obviously I'm thinking about it. I somewhat kind of rushed through the tee shot, hit it left, end up making a sloppy bogey.
Okay.
Literally the only thing I was thinking about was what I did on 15. I was trying to figure out what was going wrong. One of the rules officials pulls me into the office. So it's I called it the dungeon because it's literally beneath the entire clubhouse. You don't even know this room is there. So I walk inside, and there's another rules official in there. He's watching the TV, but he walks out as soon as I walk in.
So you have another rules official watching the TV, presumably to look at this potential rules violation.
It's me and 2 other rules officials that are in there. And he comes up to me and he's like, all right, we need to look at this video. I said, okay, fine. So we look at it, and he's like, do you see an issue here?
So right off the bat here, they're making him look at the video again. Are you supposed to use a video in this situation after the player's already said that he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong?
I said, no, not even close. He said, where did you place the golf ball? And that was his first question. And at that moment, I was like, anything that I say right now is going to be used against me. Anything.
This sounds like he's being charged with a crime.
Yeah.
But let me set the stage even more. So I was the only one in there. I didn't have my caddy. I didn't have my playing competitors.
Right.
I didn't have anybody else in there with me, which is odd. You're supposed to.
So now Shad Tuten is saying it's odd not to have a playing partner or a caddy in there with him. It's him and 2 rules officials and apparently some kind of TV monitor. To me, this is starting to sound a little bit like coercion.
To have your playing competitors or somebody else in there, to kind of help out with the situation. I just kept saying, just show me the video, keep showing me, like, whatever, like, I want to see it, and you tell me. He explained the rule to me to where when you replace the golf ball, it has to be on the exact same spot. He kept saying that, exact same spot.
That is incorrect. You're not supposed to use video evidence to require this level of precision.
Where the ball rolled the first time. And in my eyes, where I was doing it, I thought that I did it. I placed the ball, picked it up kind of like this, and then put it back.
If you're listening to this podcast, Shad repeatedly says he feels like he did nothing wrong.
In my eyes, that's what I thought I did. I thought I did the right thing. And obviously with the video.
And the impact here is that what we're trying to do is eliminate players on television being held to a higher standard than the rest of those that are playing the game.
You can zoom in so close now.
Simply because they're on television and now we have access to this video that can zoom in, slow motion, replay, all those things.
You can get just to the centimeter of it.
Yep.
Like it was, I'm talking just the slightest amount off.
You have to remember the Tiger Woods drop on hole 15 in 2013, where Tiger took a drop that he thought was in accordance to the rules. He took 2 club lengths back further than his initial point, and they initially cleared it, even though it was prompted by a television viewer, and they should have actually looked into the rule a little bit better than saying, oh, just 2 club lengths is fine. They only penalized Tiger after they found out in the post-round interview that Tiger had intentionally dropped 2 club lengths back. This, at most, is along the lines of what Lexi did, and certainly well inside the 2 club lengths that Tiger Woods took.
That was it. There was no argument. Obviously I did, because I'm fighting for my life here.
For sure.
To be fair, it took about 20 minutes because I was like, I'm not signing the scorecard because I feel like.
He's not signing the scorecard. He still doesn't feel like he did anything wrong.
Why is this happening to me? Because I'm a good guy. I've always played by the rules. I've called a penalty on myself 3 times. One was in final stage 3 years ago when I ultimately got my Korn Ferry Tour card from it. So it's like, I'm a guy that plays by the rules. I know the rules. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
And so at that point, obviously you have to go upstairs. They kind of forced me to sign my scorecard.
They kind of forced me to sign my scorecard. I want to know the full totality of circumstances here, but this is sounding more and more like coercion.
And that was that. I've literally worked since 2016 to get to this point for this opportunity. And the conversation that I just had took that away from me, which is just mind-blowing in the moment. I cannot put it in words how I felt, because I felt every emotion on top of the adrenaline that I just come down from. And I was obviously distraught. I didn't want to sign the scorecard. I did everything I could to not, because I felt like it was wrong. And I felt like the way that it all happened too was just not right. Shane, the hardest part about what I did was I didn't think I did anything wrong. That was, we have to fight this, we have to do that. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like,
Kind of it.
once you sign that scorecard, it's gone. It's done. There's literally nothing I can do about it. And
Well, Jim, thank you for the clarity. It's a sad way to end the year, but you have to protect the field and play to the rules. Thank you.
It doesn't make sense that Janine Driscoll and the USGA don't want to address this Shad Tuten situation because it isn't a USGA event. The Masters also isn't a USGA event, but Ridley later said that they had consulted with the USGA, which agreed on the decision not to disqualify Woods in the 2013 Tiger Woods Masters situation. As we know from the US Open, the USGA made an incorrect ruling, and they came out afterwards and stated it was a mistake. Yes, that was a USGA event, But you also have, for example, what just happened at the Hong Kong Open where the Thai pro was moving a tree out of the way. Steve Roche tweets, I understand you can remove a branch that's already broken, but can you use it to clear a heap of bush out of the way while you're moving it? Surely if it's covered in vines, you can't move it, as we see the Thai pro moving an entire tree. It looks like you're completely violating the rules. Specifically, Rule 8.1, course played as it is found. The Asian Tour then came out and said, yes, that was incorrect. We need a governing body to review what happened with the Shad Tuten situation so that we can know whether or not the use of video rule is still effective. Because if Shad Tuten is penalized, essentially there is no use of video rule when it comes to replacing your ball. And before there are people out there saying, hey, they can't reverse the decision now, what the USGA should do is provide ruling as to whether what the Korn Ferry Tour officials did was correct. And the new headlines on this matter should be Korn Ferry Tour rules officials mistakenly penalized Chad Tuton, thereby costing him his PGA Tour card. Once those headlines get out there, then let the American public's outcry help Chad Tuton get his PGA Tour card. But the first thing we have to establish is that the Korn Ferry Tour officials did in fact make a mistake by not totally understanding the use of video rule or not enacting it at all. It's very bizarre that they don't seem to know this rule.